Good evening, everyone.
Good, very good evening, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I'm really sorry to keep you all waiting. It's bad of me. I was stuck somewhere in a meeting. It's really, I'm really, accept my apologies, everyone, that I was, not able to be present on the designated time. Uh, so accept my apologies for that. And without taking much of your time, let me directly start with my presentation. अ, योगी जी प्लीज वो स्क्रीन शेयरिंग के राइट्स दे दीजिए थैंक यू थैंक यू it says that there is an error that occurred while sharing screen अच्छा ओके चलिए आई विल री लॉग इन एंड so please allow me one more minute okay so my screen is visible and thank you very much. So let me start with a basic question in mind, or let me start giving you a basic understanding in the mind. And that understanding is, while I was getting out of the meeting, I was thinking about a question that, as researchers, we might all have thought about, maybe, I don't know, that do you find that there is a link between attendance and academic performance of students? I repeat my question. Do you, means I believe I'm mostly talking to teachers, yes? So let's keep this, a type of sharing sessions. And whenever you feel like saying or yes or no something, you can raise the hand like this, okay, and then lower it down. So that, or you can speak. So that would be a two-way communication channel that we will be establishing. So. Am I talking to mostly teachers? Most of my colleagues over here in this meeting who have joined in, they are teachers.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
great, great,
Yes,
great,
sir.
great,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
great, great. Thank you very much. So let's start with an opening question. That uh, my my teaching idea or my experience of almost 21, 23 years tells me this idea that students who are regular with their studies, or even if they are not regular, but there is a linkage between the presence of student in class and it's their academic performance. Okay, this is my opening question for you. I'm not saying that whether you agree disagree, but this can be an opening question for us. And with this opening question, let me give you an idea of it. Okay, that what do I mean by, with this topic? Let's dive in today's topic of it. Okay, and before I start explaining you research design, am I referring to some of the people who are doing pursuing their PhDs? Any research scholars here?
Yes, sir.
Great.
Yes, sir.
Ritu Mathur ma'am, Mahesh Nagar sir. Okay. And
Yes.
any more? Tanvinder Kaur ma'am. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. But so especially I would be taking a special interest towards my research scholar fellows. Okay. Uh, Otherwise also, in general, I would be addressing everyone. So the primary idea that I want to talk to you is this: have you drawn a mental map of your research? Like that's the reason I've given you a basic question to understand. Or if you want, I can take any example from your research or from anyone's research, your field of interest, any example I can take up. Or shall I continue with this example, a general example that I've picked up, that attendance and academic performance, is there in linkage between the two? What do you, how do you want me to proceed? Like, would
Yes,
you
sir.
like to give me some or you would like to give me some topic to take as an example, or shall I continue with this?
So you can continue with this.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rituma. So my idea of telling you is that, that have you drawn a mental map? So when I would draw a mental map of my research work, say that this has interested me, that how does the performance, academic performance of a person and his marks, okay, or sorry, academic performance measured in terms of marks, and then I would have his attendance. Okay, so both are measurable variables. Okay, so is there any some relationship between the two? So when I say that have you drawn a mental map, I mean that what all should I talk in this research? I'm not talking about the topic. Forget about the topic. Okay, framing of topic is something which should be, done towards a later period of time. And then this is what my idea says. So what do you feel that what all should I include in this topic? What all I should include? So you would suggest me that that I can include introduction, review of literature, then maybe, some test of things, if might have collected, this would be a secondary data. Yes. So based on my secondary data analysis, I can collect on, say, I can draw some conclusions from the test, and then I can write conclusion. Yes.
Yes,
So
sir.
that would be a larger understanding. Now my question is that this is a larger understanding. Okay, agreed. Now my question is that what I should write largely in my introduction. Review of literature, I would obviously, I would refer to this idea of that academic performance and attendance. So this would be, largely focus area of my review of literature. But what should be my focus area of introduction? What I should write in introduction? I hope you're
We will
getting my
into
point. Sorry.
Concept, concept.
Concept of what, Sunita ma'am?
मतलब मेन टॉपिक से रिलेटेड जो मतलब जो कॉन्सेप्ट है उसका ज्यादा ब्रीफ मतलब इंट्रोडक्शन में पार्ट होना चाहिए हम हमारा जो रिसर्च एरिया ऑफ रिसर्च है.
Hmm. So I should, write the conceptual part, and then I should write the aim and objective of it. That why, why has this topic interested me, or what is this topic, would be deliberating about.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
sir.
So that's what I hope you're getting my point. That the more, before the start of research, we haven't started any research. I have not floated any questionnaire. I've done nothing. Okay, not even that I have I have finalized the topic. No, I've just picked up two variables: attendance and academic performance. I have not given any, delimiting variable to it. Forget about independent, dependent. बहुत सारी चीजें अभी I've not, decided on many things. Agreed. But my idea is that I should have a mental map of this thing, that when I would perform this research, or when I would do this research, what is that I would be, largely looking at. Okay. So have that thing clear before you start the research. Now this is an idea when you are talking about a research paper. So all my friends, all my colleagues who are pursuing their PhD, now you have got multiple objectives. Okay. So you need to have a wider framework. You need to have a wider mental map. Always remember, if you are given 4 hours to cut a tree, spend 2 hours in, sharpening the axe. So the better mental map you have got of your research, any research, whether you are pursuing PhD, especially if you are pursuing PhD, the brighter the idea that you have, the larger the idea that you have, the better it would be when you would be, pursuing your PhD. Okay. Spend some time with yourself, spend some time with your topic, try and don't see, I'm not saying that you should not be looking into the type of data. I would be talking about that. But we are largely motivated only by one idea, that which statistical tools are we using. Before you start using any statistical tool or something like that, you need to have that clarity in mind, that what is that I would be talking largely in my thesis or in my research area, okay, or in my in my paper. What is that I would be largely talking? So have you drawn that mental map, larger mental map? See, pieces here and there can be fixed. So depending on that how mega project you are attempting, you can always find the missing pieces. But jumping into something without having a good idea of things, that's what I'm saying. See, the problem with research scholars is that they are novice to the field of research. So it's our duty as guides, as as their seniors, if I may use this word, because I might have done the PhD years ago. So it's my duty that I should guide them on this idea. But the idea is that irrespective of the topic, you should have a clarity in mind that where are you leading? Okay, largely where would you lead, like why you picked up this topic, what is the what is the genesis of this topic, why I'm saying this. The better you are clear about this idea before you actually dip into this thing, because these questions you would be repeatedly being answering. Okay, to a certain level you would be repeatedly answering such questions. People would talk about your statistical things, people would talk about your findings and whatnot and inferences drawn from your things, but that would come later. People would start from this idea, that why this topic. Okay, if you are yet to face your RDC or proposal committee, then that becomes very much, that becomes very much essential. And hence drawing that clarity, larger clarity, is something which would help you across your PhD. If you frame this idea, if you follow this practice, okay, then believe me that you would follow this in even in your writing of research papers. Now that would be an added advantage for you. Okay, so create this idea, start working it this way, that whenever you are sitting with a research, you are trying to draw a larger mental map, but pick up a pen and paper and write larger things. Okay, things can be fixed here and there, pin it on a green board and then start working. Believe me, you would feel it benefited, because once the mental map is ready, then you can fix on pieces here and there, and that is where the research design would actually come in. Okay, because now you would be talking about what, like Sunita ma'am, I believe, was telling me that what I can write in introduction, what I can write, what topic should I write, or which idea should I pick up in review of literature and things like that. Okay, so hence design can always follow, the better design can always follow. You can modify the design and things like that. Okay, so I hope this initial discourse of my concept is clear to you, that which where is have a clarity, have a mental map. Okay, so that is your first take back from today's session, that have a mental map. Okay, so you can always look out for such type of research design. I would quickly take you through all of them. That what is something that you call, see, the question that we started with. My observation of years says that people who are regular in classes are perform academically better. I may have observed, from each batch that I have taught, I may have observed some students. But then I have also observed, what should I say? I also observed exception to these cases also. Okay, that people who may not be too regular with their classes end up doing better. I won't say best, okay, okay, but they end up doing better. I'm not saying that bookworms or something. I'm not taking you to that direction, please. Okay, my idea is simple. Attendance, I have two variables in mind, that I would have attendance, I would have this. What essentially I'm trying to do, I'm trying to report things to you, what has actually happened. Okay, this is where descriptive research comes in. Okay, so clear with this idea? This is where actually descriptive research comes in. Okay, you can draw a comparison between. I'm trying to draw a comparison between people who have less attendance and their academic performance and people who have that higher attendance and their performance. Okay, and I'm clear with this. Performance means result. Okay, their academic result or their semester result, whatever you call it, maybe. So I can do it in three different ideas. So this, if I pick up this as a research topic, this is largely a descriptive research. Okay, and I can pick up this as any three of the idea. What I can do is that I can pick up a certain maybe certain institution to do this. Okay, you want to pick up many people, like say they do an idea, like especially when they write research papers, they do that employee satisfaction survey with such and such organization, or with this brand, marketing with this brand, or something like that. This is essentially a case study when you are focused on certain idea. Now the only problem with a case study is that you cannot generalize it. See, what might have made the employees of a certain organization happy are not the same variables that can make. See, there are no generalization. Okay, there is nothing as absolute science, nothing. Okay, whichever subject you move around, except for science, there is nothing as absolute science. Even in science, there are some areas which are, I would call it, they are gray areas. They don't offer a complete explanation of the phenomenon. They have some explanation of the phenomenon, but not a complete one. So that's what I'm saying, that there can always be a limitation when it comes to case study method. So whenever you do a case study, remember this thing, that those case studies would be telling you about in-depth, giving you an in-depth analysis about a certain organization or a certain individual, or maybe if you're talking about certain ethnic groups or anything like that. Consumer behavior studies are there based on ethnic groups or their consumption pattern. So that would be, that would be a larger limitation on that thing. Okay, so there then you can always look for a cross sectional studies. Cross sectional studies are simple in idea, that you compare two stratified group. What is a concept of stratified group? Anyone, please? Anyone? Any idea, please? Stratified group, the second point says that stratified groups. So what is the idea of stratified groups? You can refer to example if that can give you some hint.
Hi, stratified group are like if you are taking two groups and you can segregate those between, let's say, if you have a gender, we can segregate male in one category and female in another category. Or in terms of treatment, like treated, untreated, or on single drug or two drugs or multiple drugs. So segregation basically of the groups.
Okay. So put it simply, it would be segregation on the groups based on non mingling criteria. Okay, you can at any given point of time you can belong only to one gender. Either you can you can be a male or a female types. You can be studying in a certain class at a given point of time. So at any given point of time, if there is a distinctive characteristics, okay, you can exclusively belong only to one group. That is what a stratified group would mean. Okay, so you can talk about cross sectional studies, that many people in many researchers, they do a gender based comparison. Gender is one common variable that you can do an income based comparison, a gender based so there can be many demographic variables wherein you can form a strata, and based on that strata you can do it. Cross sectional studies are good. Okay, but the only idea is that if there is, it would be more beneficial if you can study it over a period of time. Like say, in come back to our example. Our example said that you can have, say, student attendance and academic performance. So you can have only one point of attendance. See, either you can be say I largely divided into above 75, below 75. See, I'm not trying to complicate the variable as of now. Okay, so above 75, below 75. So at any given point of time, a student can belong to above 75 or below 75. Academic performances, say, denoted through grades, which are a well-established type of an idea that A plus A and things like that. Okay, so I take that definition of grades. So it would be always better that I can take it as a, along with cross section, I can add a longitudinal variable that I'm studying for last 5 year, 5 batches. Okay. So my research now would be more, I can establish it better that over a past 5 years, if you look into this record, like say, if you come from finance, you talk about performance, okay, of stock market or something like that over a period of time. So when they try and sell you some mutual fund or something, they try and show you that over this many years, this is how the fund performance has been like. Okay, so that's always better that along, if you're drawing a comparison, if you can draw a comparison, or if you can study a variable over a period of time, like say I would take that example later, that how things have been changed after COVID. I would take that example later. And then you can, you cannot always have a questionnaire. See, many people ask me this thing, that being a PhD guide, that how many, h- how many pages should I make the questionnaire like? And this sounds very absurd to me. What do you mean by this idea that how many pages this questionnaire should be like? Okay, think about this. I'm not getting into the questionnaire design. That's not my area as of now. That's not my topic to deal with. But my idea is simple. If you have got an objective, if you have got say 4 5, whatever your objectives are in your PhD or in your question, in your research paper, give me that precise idea that question number 1 2 3 5 6, they come from, they answer my objective number 1. As simple as this. So ask only those questions which can give answers to your defined objectives. However, I would suggest that maybe add one more variable, because that would give you an additional advantage. I would explain it sometime later. So add maybe one variable more. Okay, especially maybe a demographic variable if possible. Okay, so that would give an added advantage later on. Okay, because nobody can would is going to. So don't define your questionnaire based on this idea that how much lengthy it should be like. Okay, that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry to say this. Most of our PhD, I'm seeing a trend change. That's good. But most of our PhDs are, still based on this, or evaluation patterns are still, very subjective in nature. How much pages of answer have you written? How many tests in statistics have you applied? What is the length of your questionnaire? So, if you go asking every question to the person, you may end up actually drawing a bigger question. And you also understand, you may be part of several research groups, nobody answers this many questions. Even the colleague sitting next to you in your cubicle won't answering, won't be happy to answer all these questions. Okay, so there are always chances that you end up that at times you can always look for a qualitative study. Okay, analysis may be a little thicker on that idea, but yes, you can always try out for a qualitative study. Okay, so I'm not getting over with this idea of qualitative study as of now. I would continue, please remember this thing. I would join it back. I would try and join the dots back for you when I talk about the next idea. Okay, so it takes time, meeting people, and takes time. Okay, what if if you are not very clear with this idea, that what is that, what is that I have to talk about? Okay, there can be say I'm clear about something, but I'm not too clear about many ideas. Say COVID happened in 2020. If we take the lockdown period, if we start with lockdown period, COVID happened in 2020. It has been 4 years now. still, you can look out for many things from COVID, how it has impacted your consumption pattern. Because during COVID, people said that everything would get online because this is the new normal. Okay. So in different industry base, in different, please give me 1 minute. Please give me 1 minute. I'm sorry. So, continuing with my example, so there are, several phenomena. I was talking about the new normal idea. So, do you think that this is the new normal, and how different industries have adopted to this different type of new normal? Say, for example, if you talk about our industry, education, you and me probably know, I'm uh, we can sit together at an evening, at a Wednesday evening. Maybe, you may be attending a session far from south. Thanks to COVID, technologies like this are very common. Okay. So, some of my students, they keep a meme on, that, while you are bunking classes earlier, you have to actually, do many, you have to put in efforts to bunk a class. Now most of us have learned or mastered that thing. Keep your video off, keep your audio off, and then you are attending everything. When I'm not speaking, it's not mandatory to speak. So video off, audio off, and you are attending also, and you are bunking also. So enjoy that. That's that's what my point is. That what is the new normal for every, or for, maybe if I'm comparing it with, say banking. So I want to research on this idea, that what is the new normal in banking. So I want to, explore this idea, that what is after post COVID, or what is, how COVID has changed the face, pre COVID and post COVID. And believe me, in many, at one point of time, there was a very famous economics. Many of them, people have done their PhDs upon the pre-liberalization and post-liberalization era. Forget about it now. 1991, think, years have passed by. Forget about it now. What is the newest phenomena? What is the newest economic ride? That is COVID. Okay. It has disrupted everything. Now do a research upon whichever way you are interested in. Even all my PhD scholars, if I don't know what your topics are, but think about this. If you can include one of your objectives, I'm not saying that do your PhD in COVID, please don't do that, but include on one of your objective, that how pandemics, because pandemics would be a regular phenomena. So how pandemics would have taken a toll on the variable that you are studying. So how the life or variable before COVID and post COVID, what is, 4 years down the lane, what is the new idea. So that's what my point is, that you can always explore, because there is, not enough research in every field that is to be done. Okay. So but always remember that you may not be, happily finding many researches already done on it. So sir was telling me something, that that something is already done on a thing. You have, remember those science experiments what talked about that, if you keep a leaf in and cover it half, open it half. Remember those basic EVS type of experiments. So you can always have a test group, control group. Okay. So that means, people who are exposed to certain variables, people are not exposed to certain variables. Okay. So that's how, most of the medical sciences would cater to you, or that's how many of these things would actually work. Like, still, doctors keep asking you on this thing, that how do you have got COVID at any given point of time? So how has COVID impacted your, say, maybe say eyesight? So it can be anything like. Okay. So that's what I'm saying, that you can always formulate an experimental design. Okay. That people who were subjected to some type of variable, people who were not subjected to certain type of variable. So that can be, you can draw such examples right from your institution, in the sense that, say, Say, for example, in your institution, you may talk about this idea that how, uh, say, for example, people who have received a pre-placement training, okay, or who have attended, say, again, I would come to that attendance thing again, that people who have attended, say, many colleges these days practice a type of, coaching their students into, they are preparing their institute students better into, say, placement type of thing. So they give them aptitude, they give them English and whatnot. Okay, so most of the TPOs now, training and placement officer, are interested with this task as well. So you have got a training cell as well. So student who are fairly regular in that, how much they, or how far they did well in getting selected in a company. Okay, and people who are not regular with this thing, how they performed in the company. So you can always have a cutoff, say 70% and above, again 75% and less. So you add one variable that you are studying only the placement related things, not many things like. So that's what I'm saying, that you can always have an idea of this thing, that that's how an experimental design would work for you. Okay, so that's what I said, a pre-post test types. Okay, so you obviously you need to have data for this thing. For you cannot say for only for 1 year that, say, if your institution has been practicing it for years altogether, so you cannot just say that for only 1 year you are giving the data. You can actually spill over the data over years to talk about that. This is what my recommendation is. Wherever possible, use a quantitative and qualitative mix. I won't take much of your time to dwell upon this, but wherever possible, try and take qualitative data along with the quantitative data. That means, don't leave altogether on your questionnaire. Don't rely much on your questionnaire. Some people are like, virtue stands in the middle. They would pick something that okay, agree, something strongly agree, something okay thing. So people actually don't understand questions or statement. They just they put it some answers to it and they give it to you. It happens. Okay, so it's always better that you actually go and talk to or go, if possible, go and talk to your respondents. Okay, not don't try to repeat questions the same that you have asked in the questionnaire. No, my idea telling you is that maybe when you talk to your respondents, you would understand the why of it, and that is where actually the research is. What is I can always say that people who have academically done better were the one 70% of the were the one that who had done good in their, they were good with their attendance also. Agreed. Somebody can ask me why. Okay, the reason may be obvious, that the more you class attend, the better you can be. But then they would look at some of the exceptions. Okay, that those 20% who were laggards when it came to attendance had done extremely well. You can expect some of them to be top performers in the top 5 students. So why was this? If at one point of time they agreed that attendance has got an impact on academy, but what about, how do you explain these 20% variables? Okay, now that is what I would need why. So research is not only about how, okay, or what is the way, or how is the variable behaving. Research is more about answering those whys. So remember, that is why people are interested in your research. Otherwise, why one should waste time in reading your research? That's actually a wastage. So try and answer those whys, and while you're trying to answer those whys, some data would be captured through a questionnaire, and some data go on the field, feel, take a sense of it. Okay, feel the data, go on the field. You would feel that data, that why, and that is from where exactly you would understand why. And that is where you can link that how theory and practice gets separated, or where is the separation points, what are the separation points on answering this whys. And that is what makes your research valuable, especially to all those PhD students who are listening. That is what makes your research valuable. And remember, I repeat it again, in many of these interviews at any given point of time at any level, as soon as you say that you are a PhD, people would be interested in, okay, what were your findings and why this variable behaves like this. Okay, so be prepared for this answer. So that's what, if you are still stuck with which design should I go for, maybe some type of an earlier research, and what value addition are you looking forward to. Most of the social science based research, when I say social science, I'm including economics and all other subjects including management, would largely follow a descriptive design. Okay, some of them will be obviously an experimental design or maybe exploratory, depending on what area are you looking forward to it. Okay, now I come to the last leg of my presentation when I talk about any questions. Okay, before I move on to my last topic, any questions anyone would like to ask? Yes, in any questions anyone would like to ask? Okay, fair enough. So I believe things are clear, settled. So we move on to sampling and sampling distribution. One of the most common, questions that people, I'm not getting into the basics. I believe basics would be obviously clear, but remember that two important attributes. One, that population is something which which can be your variable types, which satisfies your research criteria. Like say, uh, when I'm saying this topic, that whether it should be like um, what should I say, I come back with my question that whether it would be like say your research thing with your attendance and performance. Okay, so obviously my population to answer this would be students. Okay, so because that is what I would be looking into. So student, and from that students I can pick up a sample. So my population is something which would be based on my research attributes or my research criteria that would define my population. Not everyone includes my population. I can, if I've got more delimiting factors, say in management education, or say in social sciences or something like that, then I'm I'm keep say I'm if I'm interested only in social sciences, then I'm maybe keeping out say engineering students, I may be keeping out medical students, things like that. Okay, so that is not a part of my population, despite of the fact that they are already students. Okay, so depending on what all delimiting factor I have picked up, that is where the population comes in. And then I would have samples. Okay, so sampling is something that I can pick up, those who can represent the entire group. Okay, the most critical question that again, as I said, you know uh, I'm not going to looking into this thing, so I would directly take you over this, that you can always have two types of sampling techniques: a random sample and a non-random sample types. Okay, so random samples would be like that you have got a list, and from list you can pick up any, like say again, you have got the list of students, so there are finite numbers. Okay, so and from that any I can pick up any students to study. That is a simple one. Stratified I have already talked about, so that you have got a definite pattern. So I can compare between male, female, when I'm talking about this thing, or first year, second year students. So that is that, and I can pick up based on stratified thing. But remember, beyond every everything, there is what you call as common sense. Please understand this thing. Okay, if I'm studying a student, what do I mean by common sense? See, say for example, let me ask you a simple question. I have got, I want to study the variables that whether you have got attendance and academic performance. So should I compare between year one and year two? Say if the degree is of 2 years, so should I compare it between year one and year two? Do you think it would make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, or
Yes,
let
sir.
me ask you another question. Let me ask you another question. What if I study the same student, okay, in year 1 and year 2, and I compare between the both? That in year 1, because say if the degree is usually of 2 years, you find that people who are join fresh, they tend to be more regular as compared to their year 2 when they actually become seniors. So if I draw the comparison within the same batch, and my first question was between two batches, what do you think would be more logically appealing? As an audience, I'm asking.
Same batch, sir.
Same batch? So I hope you got my question. That at times, see, common sense is beyond, common sense even beyond law. Okay, it's beyond rules. That you actually tend to study or tend to understand that what is that something which is, which uh, is to be done like. Okay, what is that something which what can be more logically, or what things can appeal better. So it's always better that you compare the same batch, that the student who has moved from year 1 to year 2, rather than comparing year 1 and year 2 batches separately, senior and junior separately. That may not make any point of comparison, like. Okay, so always remember that thing. Then you can always have a systematic random sample that you want to pick up, say out of 20,000, which sample should I go? So you say you have got a sample size of 50. So you can always look out for, let me show you something like, something like this. So, you can always look out for that every 200 sample. Remember, in any random sample, your list should not be in a particular order. Okay, that every 200th person is which has got a peculiar characteristics. So if you get any list, jumble it around. Okay, so that's how it would be actually random in there. Cluster, it would be more useful for you when you are doing an area based sample. Okay, so when you are doing an area based sample on that thing, cluster would be something that you would be more useful for you. Say you want to say that say customer sample or customer satisfaction of a certain given bank in an area. Okay, so it's always better that you don't limit yourself to a certain part of uh, say city, because that certain part of city may have a very peculiar characteristics of population. Okay, so you might always have a high end population and low end population, and the branch of bank would be available throughout. So you can always look forward to a bank or branch, which is on a very different idea. Okay, so that's what you can look out for. That if you're actually wanting to compare uh, uh, satisfaction in a certain city, because city is your delimiting variable, then go for cluster sampling and then pick up east west north south types. Okay, so you would have a fair understanding of that, the different types of population, and then you can give that logic also. My idea is that whenever you do research or things like that, explain your logic, that as to why you are picking up, not that I have told you to do it on an area based sample. No, you should know that logic, that uh, what difference it would make that if I take up a certain area, maybe say for example. So you should understand that the population characteristics which is spread across the area, so is that uniform? The answer would be no, largely it is non-uniform. Okay, so no, so you can always look out for variability in the population based on income, based on occupation, many things like that. So cluster samples are always better on that. Okay, these are randoms which are which would need say a list or something, but I may not always have a convenience of list or something like that. So I may have a non-random style, that you look good to me. Say Divya ma'am has already attended my session, so if I send her a questionnaire, at least she would oblige me by answering a certain question. So that is as simple as convenience sampling. Okay, I may ask some experts based on my ideas of research. So that can be a judgmental sampling, or I can decide a quota control that I would pick up this many numbers of students to answer till I believe that okay, this would satisfy that thing. Okay. Or there can be certain topics which are not, the samples are not known, or samples may not be very open types, like say I want to do some research on drugs, okay, cigarette smoking or anything like that, especially drugs if I take an example. So you won't find drug people very open. Okay. They're not your like say in any other customer of television or any other thing. So you actually need to get in touch with one, and from there you can look out for other ones. Say maybe rehabilitation centers. You can start if you want to do some research on drug people. So you can start with rehabilitation centers, and from there you can gather more of mass. Now I would answer the final question for you. I wouldn't try and exceed your time. Sample size. What should be the sample size that I should? What is that? What would suffice? Like. Okay, what would be the sample size that would suffice my research? Okay, answering this question is fairly simple. Why I say this, let me get over with this. So these are the strategies. Okay, if you're referring to a very niche market type of things, use the census. You have to go and ask everyone. If you are talking about say, or you can take up a similar sample size from a similar study, that would be a things. Published tables, something like this. Okay, so these are already published tables, so that would guide you as to what type of significance levels you can hear about. And finally, that you can calculate, you can use formulas. Okay, there are available pre existing formulas which are freely available. In most of our research we may not know say the standard deviation. So forget about that. You can always use a formula which can go about without using a standard deviation. So use that formula. They are freely available. Okay, on through Google. That you can just type in Google that formula to calculate sample size without standard deviation of the population. If that is not known to you, because in most of the real research cases you may not be knowing. Theoretically, it is okay that the theory questions that we teach to students in statistics or in research methodology, but in real research, in real life field, we may not be knowing the actual deviations. So forget about that value, and then you can you always know the confidence intervals, and 5% whatever you are taking, it's always better that you take 5%, not go it's my just a piece of advice. Don't look for 1% of that thing, go for 5% of that thing, and that's how you can pick up sample size. Because one of the most important question that how much and most importantly, my idea of entire to conclude the sampling thing, I would give you only two ideas. One, look out for that your sample is widely distributed. Like, okay, see, if I want to study say investment pattern in a certain age, okay, or investment pattern in age, see, these are my two variables. Then I should make, and say I have picked up four age criteria to study. Then I should make sure that whatever my sample size, 100, 150, 120, whatever it is, please make sure that that is divided across this all this sample things. Okay, you cannot you cannot be very lopsided on sampling things, that your criteria of 25 to say 40 or 20 to 40 would be like 50 samples out of the total 150 samples are there, or 40 samples are there, and then rest of the 60 are divided in three criteria. Okay, either you should have a logic for this. The logic can be that that you are deriving it from the census, that you have got one of the youngest population. Okay, so most of your working population are between 25 to 45. Say, I'm just taking it as an example. Okay, I'm not making any statement here. So either support your sampling thing with this idea that since this is the figure, obviously, because as I told you, that sample would genuine has to represent a population. Okay, so if this is the large population characteristics, then your sample would be automatically justified, like. Okay, but my point is that give this write this justification whenever you are writing about the sample characteristics. Okay, most of the people don't write this in when they write their research methodology thing. Write this even in your paper also. I'm a reviewer to some of the international journals. Received a paper. It said about the sample size was 160 or something, and it talked about that certain study done in Philippines. Now, my basic question is that, how does 160, a data of 160 would represent an entire country? Okay. Whatever the population of the country is, it's obviously not, in thousands that you're talking. You're referring to a population in lakhs. If we are referring to a population in lakhs, how does the data 160 would define or, would represent the entire country? Okay. So, save yourself from this unwarranted questions. So that paper was sent for a review. That paper was sent back with changes required types. That's what I'm saying, that this was a case of paper, but this is not a case with your PhD. Okay, at the end you cannot have this thing. And remember, believe me, you know you may pass even the viva of the PhD and you would be awarded doctorate tomorrow. But these questions would haunt you. They would chase you for your entire career. Largely, people would be interested in knowing whenever you talk research with some intellect, they would be asking these questions to you. Okay. That's what I'm saying. So don't make these questions haunting questions for you. That's what my request to you is. And that's what I pause myself for the day. Um, any questions, you are most welcome to ask. And if there are no questions, let's call it a day. And once again, I'm really sorry to keep you waiting, but I'm equally thankful for all of you. You have been so kind to extend this that without any things, you accepted this thing. So it's so kind of you, and my apologies again. The Dipali ma'am has raised her hand. Yes, please, ma'am.
No, sir, wrongly.
Not an issue. Not an issue, ma'am. Not an issue. So, in any questions, anyone? Okay, I believe there are no questions. Fair enough. Either I have made sense, or I would have been talking nonsense. So either in these cases, thank you very much for being a very patient audience, and my special thanks to my entire RFI family, and all audiences. All my colleagues who have joined from different parts of the country. Okay, so thank you very much, and have a pleasant evening ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.